Good morning, fellow members of St Ethelbert's PROBUS Club. This is the first meeting of our new year, and presumably the first without a physical AGM to confirm the offices, etc. So as your new president, I offer you greetings and hope that you are all well. Don Lane has suggested that I wear a tie for this meeting. Wally is still polishing the gavel, block and chain twice daily and taking it to bed with him. Therefore, I shall be using our new temporary set. Oh. Well, that's the end of our new temporary set, but I now declare the meeting open. Welcome to this session of St Ethelbert's PROBUS Club. As usual, before we have our speaker, the officers of the club have their input, but before I introduce them, may I thank Wally, Steve, John and John L for keeping the club on track for this past year. The attendance today is a little on the downside, but I thought it was a bit much when the Found Hope crowd collapsed the road at Luxor in order to aid their isolation. Over to you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Simon. Morning, gent. Well, good morning, gent. We only have one member here this morning. Thank you very much for coming, Wally. I don't know what's happened to the rest of your colleagues. Well, I do. They've all sent their apologies. I don't really know what to say. None of them has actually got a very good excuse. They're just all staying at home. They say it's something to do with some sort of virus that's going around the world, but I haven't heard about it, so maybe someone could let me know. So again, thank you, Wally, for turning up. Much appreciated. Yes, well, there's not a lot. I can't sort of really mark the register. Well, I can just put Wally down, and my colleagues here, Simon and John, so and myself, obviously. So yes, haven't got anything else to report. We have no birthdays today, so over to you.
Thank you. Now our social secretary must be rubbing his hands together with glee, thinking he's got a few easy months ahead. What have you got to say for us today, John?
Good morning, fellow Probians. This is the Social Secretary's report for 2019 to 20. Once again, the last 12 months seem to have been reasonably successful with a fair variety of speakers, albeit with a fair smattering of transport and mechanical subjects. Surprise, surprise. The highlights of the 2019-20 programme were probably the talks on the Sir Edward Elgar Birthplace Trust by Joe Tierney, despite some technical glitches towards the end of the presentation, and David Skillen's introduction to the American Civil War. Our top draw and countdown mornings were popular and will hopefully be tried again later this year, together with a number of presentations by other club speakers. The first half of this year's programme, of course, is now in total disarray following world events, but I do hope that the programme for the remainder of the year will turn out to be interesting enough for my colleagues. This report was read from the desk of Alvar Liddell. Goodbye.
Thank you. Our treasurer must be fairly used to this isolation lark, living as he does in faraway Dawston. Anything to say, John?
Gentlemen, welcome to the first virtual Treasurer's Report. Can you hear me? No? Is that better? Right. I'm going to give you a virtual Treasurer's Report. Not a lot to say, other than your money is safe. All of you should have been paid back your AGM lunch fees, and I've added extra virus protection just to keep a better check on your money. So I hope you're happy with that. Before our speaker, I just want to say that it's a speaker that you've had several times before. Very, very good. And she's going to talk about where we live at Dawston. Now, if you like it and you want to find more about Dawston, then after this, Google Dawston History Society. You'll not only be able to see more of what Penny's been talking about, but you'll also be able to look up more about the history of Dawston. So, hope you enjoy.
Hello members of St Ethelbert's PROBUS Club. I'm going to share with you the first virtual lockdown talk that you're going to have, and I want to cover some fascinating snippets of the early history of 6,000 years of settlement here in the village of Dawston. Join me high up on Dawston Hill, where the views are delightful, especially in this sunny weather. I'm sure you recognise Hay Bluff. Just imagine the impact as, after struggling on foot up the steep slope from Bredwardine, the path levels out for a short distance, then suddenly the hill drops down again at your feet and you can see the Golden Valley spread before you. We were looking out across the valley from the site of this ancient monument, Arthur's Stone, a place of mystery and wonder. This monument dates from Neolithic times and is at least 5,000 years old. The enormous capstone, estimated to weigh more than 25 tons, is balanced on 9 upright stones. Built in an area of summer pastures, Neolithic people would have gathered at this sacred place to celebrate the changing of the seasons and the harvest, and for all kinds of ceremonies to venerate their ancestors. This site has never been thoroughly examined, and so much has been lost. The remaining large stones of the inner chamber of dolmens like this were once covered by a long earthen mound. The burial chamber itself was entered through the side of the mound via a right-angled passage. It would have been a gathering point for burial of the dead for centuries. When we were building our house 14 years ago, we took this photo from beside Arthur's Stone as a link between the village's ancient past and its continuous change and modern development. Several families moved in at the same time as we did and thought that the way into the village over the hill made them think they were in a secret place, rather like Narnia. This is a view from our back garden. Indeed, it can sometimes look like the mysterious world of Narnia. In fact, the newcomers were quite right. They are very close to Narnia. C.S. Lewis was very familiar with this area. He was in prep school in Malvern and then won a scholarship to Malvern College. Consequently, Lewis and his friend J.R.R. Tolkien regularly visited Malvern from Oxford, where they were both professors at the university, and they walked in the Malvern Hills and beyond. The views across Herefordshire from the Malvern Hills are thought to have helped shape this land of Narnia, and possibly even aspects of Middle-earth or other lands in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. The Golden Valley, which he introduced to his beloved wife Joy, was this Golden Valley, not the Simmons Yacht Gorge that was shown in the film Shadowlands. The climax of the story is when Aslan the lion is tortured and killed by the witch after Edmund has betrayed them. In the night they keep a vigil watch at the table over Aslan's body, grieving for his loss. At dawn, when they turned to watch the sunrise, there was an almighty crack and the table split in two right down the middle. And when they turned back to look, Aslan was before them, once again alive and well. The stone splits, and death is indeed turned backwards. Look again, and you can see where it split. Surely this was C.S. Lewis's model for that very altar. But Arthur's Stone is only one part of an enormous complex of Neolithic and later monuments spread all along this ridge, which can be seen from all directions. It was a natural gathering place for traders and travellers. You can see the amount of fines of flint which was worked here, not naturally found in this area. Major evidence of the early monuments and settlement on the hill has been found by Manchester University Archaeology Department, which brings students here to do excavations each July and has done so since 2013. Their discoveries hit the headlines on TV and in the newspapers. The excavation centred on the site of 3 long barrows which had been bulldozed away to make the land usable for agriculture at the end of the Second World War. As the long barrows had been removed, it exposed the earliest base, so this was accessible near the surface of the field for large-scale excavations. Normally, no existing long barrow can be disturbed. The dig revealed surprising differences in the colour of the exposed soil. Under the larger barrow, much detail was preserved. The core of each mound is composed of intensely burnt clay, representing the daub from the walls of timber-framed buildings, which appear to have been deliberately moved to the centre. Further evidence was revealed showing structural timbers in carbonised form and post holes showing the positions of uprights. These timbers were completely burnt to the ground, which required intense and prolonged heat. If the fires had been accidental, then the lower parts of the largest timbers would have burnt out and remained as stumps. As work progressed during the next few years, actual post holes were uncovered, showing the general shape of a huge timber-framed hall. Evidence of these ancient halls of the dead had been found in Europe, but never before in Britain. So after the deliberate burning, the ash was gathered and left under newer structures in honour of the ancestors who first settled there. No actual bones survive here because of the acid nature of the soil. However, on the 2018 dig, pieces of cremated bone were discovered and have been dated to around 3900 BC, as anticipated, 1,000 years older than the present structure at Stonehenge. Some amazing finds were made. As these were sacred burial places, offerings of valuable items were given in honour of those remembered there. The fossil would have made this stone axe very special and unique, so a really suitable gift. Many items were traded and covered great distances. This piece of rock crystal has been knapped just like flint. The final excavation on this site was July 2019 and was exploring part of a causewayed enclosure typically found on hilltop locations. The earliest enclosures were constructed around 3650 BC, contemporary with the introduction of agriculture, the domestication of animals, the manufacture of pottery, and the quarrying of stone for the production of axes, and the construction of longhouses and ceremonial or ritual monuments, including long barrows. This is a typical site for this type of enclosure. Crossing the ditches at intervals are causeways, which give the monuments their names. It appears that the ditches were excavated in sections, leaving the wide causeways intact in between. Evidence was found that the Romans had used the ditches and earthworks in their turn. This would have been an ideal site to monitor movements of hostile tribes. So, over millennia, the sacred nature of these hilltop sites has evolved, and the patterns of ritual, trade and settlement changed and developed. The Manchester University Group intends to move next to the site of Arthur's Stone, which has never been properly excavated or surveyed with modern instruments. Indications are that the site covers a much larger area than can be identified today. As you can see, the Woolhope Club visited Arthur's Stone as part of their walk up from Bredwardine in 1872. The transaction from that meeting shows they were sad to see the site so neglected and anticipated that any future work here might produce articles of interest. Let's hope they were right. You can see it has always been a popular place to visit. This is a very old postcard from the early 20th century. And so, in conclusion, what is the answer to the most interesting question? Why Arthur's Stone? Anything from antiquity was attributed to King Arthur, As it says here, he was their great national hero and a symbol of a glorious past, so that such an interesting monument, with a use lost in the mists of time, bore his name. He died in the early 6th century, so the burial chamber was already over 4,000 years old. However, the legend persists that he came here and killed a giant who fell onto the stones and left indentations on one of them which remain to this day. Others suggest the indentations were left by Arthur's knees and elbows as he knelt there to pray. I hope this short talk has opened your eyes to just a fragment of the long story of over 6,000 years of settlement here in Dawston. Welcome to perhaps the real Narnia and to the mysterious Golden Valley. Do explore it for yourselves when life returns to normal.
Thank you, John, and thank you, gentlemen, for your contributions today. I wish everyone well in these difficult times. Stay safe. And now, to close the meeting, having wrecked the block, this is the start of St Ethelbert's PROBUS efforts to compete with JP and his Dawston Bells. I now declare the meeting closed. We hope that you enjoyed our little video, part serious and part trying to be a little more light-hearted. My thanks to all of you who helped to run the club in whatever way. Also, many thanks to Jeff, whose idea it was to try this video, plus his expertise in putting it together. My good friends, in PROBUS, please keep well and stay safe. I'm off to have a haircut now. Val's got the pinking shears ready in the kitchen.